It happened so fast that even now, when I close my eyes, I still hear my daughter's scream echoing against the metal gate. One moment, she was walking home from school holding her sketchbook, and the next, HOA Karen had her pinned flat against the iron bars like she was some kind of criminal. My daughter's tiny hands trembled as Karen shoved her shoulder harder, yelling that she was violating community rules. Her backpack hit the ground, her knees scraped the pavement, and her breath came out shaky and terrified. I froze for half a second, because no father ever expects to see a grown woman assaulting his child for simply walking through her own neighborhood. What Karen didn't know, what she couldn't have imagined, was who I really was. And within minutes, her worst nightmare was going to begin, because she had just laid hands on the assistant commissioner's daughter. Before I start this story, I want to ask you something from my heart. What city are you watching this video from? Comment your city below. I love seeing where everyone in the USA and around the world is tuning in from. And hey, before we jump into this intense roller coaster, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another story like this. All right, now let me take you back to the exact moment everything began. My name is Daniel Reyes, Assistant Commissioner for a district where I've seen every type of crime, conflict, and chaos you can imagine. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepares you for the moment someone hurts your own child. My daughter, Lily, is the sweetest 12-year-old you'll ever meet. Creative, quiet, the kind of kid who apologizes even when something isn't her fault. She had just come home from art club with charcoal on her fingers and a smile on her face until she crossed paths with HOA Karen, a woman known in the neighborhood for making everyone miserable. She thought Lily was breaking community regulations by walking near a gate she didn't approve of, and in the most twisted display of power, Karen slammed my daughter against the gate, screaming rules that didn't even exist. That was the moment I stepped forward and everything changed. Lily had been walking just a few steps ahead of me that afternoon. We were coming back from her art club showcase, a little event her school held for parents to see what the kids had been creating. She'd drawn a landscape of our neighborhood lake, the one with the swans that only appear at sunset. I remember telling her how proud I was, and she smiled in that shy way she does, brushing her hair behind her ear like she always does when she's happy but doesn't know how to show it. We were only half a block from home when it happened. Karen appeared out of nowhere, stepping out from behind the HOA maintenance shed like a guard patrolling a prison yard. Her eyes narrowed the moment she saw Lily approaching the side gate. Most neighbors used that gate to cut across the walking path. It wasn't against any law, any rule, or any policy. But Karen acted like she owned the entire community. HEY, she barked. Lily froze instantly. Karen stormed toward her, heels cracking against the pavement. I saw Lily's shoulders tense, and she clutched her sketchbook tighter. You can't walk through here. This gate is for authorized residents only. Karen screeched, pointing a trembling finger at my child as if she were some intruder. But I live here, Lily whispered softly. Karen didn't care. She grabbed Lily's arm, hard, and shoved her backward until her small body hit the iron gate with a hollow metallic clang. The sound sliced through me like a knife. Don't lie to me, little girl. I've never seen you use this gate. Karen shouted. Lily's eyes widened with fear, her breath catching in her throat. Ma'am, please, I'm just trying to go home. Quiet. Karen snapped. Kids like, you think you can do whatever you want. Not in my neighborhood. My hands curled into fists. I took one step forward, but I forced myself to control my breathing. If I'd reacted out of rage, this story could have taken a far darker turn. I said let her go. I told her, my voice low but deadly calm. Karen didn't even glance at me. She was too busy pressing Lily harder into the gate, her fingers digging into her shoulder. You need to teach your daughter some discipline, she hissed. She's breaking HOA protocol. What protocol? I demanded. Her lips curled into a smug smirk. Rule 14b. Minors cannot access restricted property without adult supervision. There is no Rule 14b, I said. Oh, but I make the rules, Karen whispered, leaning closer to Lily. and I can call security on her. Children who trespass, she's not trespassing. My voice dropped. She is my daughter, and this is her home. Karen finally turned her head toward me and rolled her eyes. That's what they all say. I'll verify with the office. Until then, she stays right here. She pinned Lily harder, and my daughter let out the smallest, most heart-shattering whimper I have ever heard. That was it. My patience died. Karen, I said, stepping closer, take your hands off my child. She snorted. Oh, please. Who do you think you are? She lifted her chin arrogantly. I run this community. A slow, cold smile spread across my face. You have absolutely no idea who you're talking to. And why should I care, she spat. Because, I said, pulling out my badge slowly, letting the sunlight reflect off it like a blade, I am the assistant commissioner. Karen's face drained of color. For the first time, she released Lily, her hand falling limp to her side. She staggered back a step, her lips opening and closing like she couldn't breathe. I didn't know, she didn't say, Her voice cracked into panic, but it was already too late. Lily rushed into my arms, hugging me tightly, her whole body shaking. I kissed the top of her head, my eyes never leaving Karen, the woman who thought she could bully a child and get away with it. You assaulted my daughter, I said quietly. No, it was just a misunderstanding. You laid hands on a minor. You physically pinned her. You threatened her. And you fabricated rules. Karen's hands trembled. Please let me explain. You'll explain, I said, stepping forward until she backed into the hedge behind her to the law. The wind grew colder. Karen swallowed hard. And for the first time, she looked scared. That's where everything truly began. Karen's face went pale as the color drained from her cheeks, but her fear didn't even come close to the fear I had seen in my daughter's eyes just moments earlier. Lily was trembling in my arms, her breath still shaky, her fingers gripping my shirt like she was afraid Karen might lunge at her again. I held her tighter, but even in that moment, I forced myself to stay calm, because as an assistant commissioner, I knew one truth better than anyone. Power used emotionally destroys justice. Power used correctly destroys injustice. And right now, I needed justice for my daughter. Karen swallowed hard and tried to gather herself. Look, sir, assistant commissioner, I swear I didn't mean to harm her. I was just following HOA protocol. People walk through restricted areas all the time. I was trying to keep the community safe. By assaulting a child? I said. Karen flinched. I didn't assault her. I just redirected her. Maybe I pushed too hard, but maybe... I repeated, my voice cold. Lily pressed her face into my chest at the sound of Karen's voice, and I gently rested my hand on the back of her head. Her hair smelled like shampoo and chalk dust. That combination broke something inside me. Kids should smell like school and innocence, not fear. I looked Karen dead in the eyes. You left marks on her shoulder. Her throat bobbed as she glanced at Lily's arm. A red imprint from Karen's fingers was clearly visible. She instantly looked away. It was a mistake, she whispered. No, I corrected her. A mistake is forgetting to close your garage door. A mistake is misplacing your HOA paperwork. But pinning a 12-year-old girl against a gate? That's violence. That's abuse of authority. That's malicious intent. Karen's hands shook. Please, can we talk somewhere private? I don't want neighbors coming out and misunderstanding. Oh, there's no misunderstanding, I said. Everyone understands perfectly. You laid hands on my child. A garage door, 2 houses down slowly opened. Someone peeked out. Another neighbor stepped onto their porch, pretending to water plants. Word traveled fast in this community, and HOA Karen being confronted was the biggest drama they'd had all year. Karen noticed and grew even more uneasy. Sir, please, you have to believe me. I thought she was trespassing. Trespassing? I snapped. In her own neighborhood? On a gate that isn't restricted? Using a rule that doesn't exist? Karen blinked rapidly. I thought... You thought nothing, I said. You reacted because you enjoy intimidating people. Because you think you can bully whoever you want. That's not true, she muttered defensively, but her voice wavered. Then why is my daughter crying? I asked. Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked at Lily, really looked, and her expression softened for just a second, guilt peeking through whatever wall she usually hid behind. I didn't think she would be so scared, Karen whispered. You shouldn't have touched her, I said sharply. Karen wrapped her arms around herself, glancing around nervously at the slow-growing audience. I'm the HOA board president, she said weakly, like that title was her last shield. And I am the assistant commissioner responsible for child safety, community policing, and civil rights enforcement, I reminded her. Which means you didn't just pick the wrong child. You picked the worst possible one. Her legs shook, and she looked like she might collapse. Lily shifted in my arms, her small voice trembling as she whispered, Dad, can we go home now? My heart cracked at her words. She shouldn't have had to experience any of this. She shouldn't have been scared to walk in her own neighborhood. Yes, sweetheart, I said softly. We're going home. But first, I turned back to Karen. You owe my daughter an apology. Karen stiffened, like I'd just asked her to hand over her crown. A what? An apology, I repeated. A real one. Not to me. To her. Karen's face twisted uncomfortably. I could see the battle inside her. Pride versus consequences. Pride was losing. She swallowed hard. Lily, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have grabbed you. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know you were with your dad. The moment those words left her mouth, my blood boiled. So, if she wasn't with me, I said slowly, you would have kept hurting her? Karen froze. She realized she had said the worst possible thing. No, I didn't mean, it came out wrong. Everything you say comes out wrong, I shot back. Because your intentions are wrong. Lily looked down, her fingers still curled around my shirt. Karen couldn't make eye contact anymore. Her defenses crumbled piece by piece. Sir, what's going to happen now? She whispered. What happens next? I said, stepping toward her. Depends on how honest you want me to be. She nodded brokenly. Your actions qualify as harassment, intimidation, unlawful detention of a minor, and assault. I said, legally, I can have you arrested right now. Karen gasped. Arrested? No, please. My husband just took a new job. My son is applying for college. I can't have an arrest record. You should have thought about that before hurting a child, I replied. She clasped her hands together, shaking. Please, I beg you. I'll do anything. Just don't involve the police. I'm already the HOA president. If people hear I attacked a kid, they'll remove me from the board, maybe sue me. Please. Do you care now because you're sorry? I asked, or because you're scared? Karen's silence was my answer. I exhaled slowly. I'm not making any decisions right now. I'll report it properly, write my statement, and let the legal process play out. Karen's eyes widened. Wait, can't we settle this privately? Please. No, I said. You forfeited that option the moment you put your hands on her. Karen looked like her world was crashing down, and maybe it needed to. I turned toward Lily. Come on, sweetheart. As I started walking away with my daughter in my arms, Karen whispered behind me in a trembling voice, Please, please don't ruin my life. I didn't look back. I didn't need to, because deep down I knew something she didn't. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And what was coming next would shake the entire neighborhood. When we got home, Lily didn't run to her room the way kids usually do after something scary. Instead, she clung to my sleeve like she was afraid I might disappear if she let go. I gently guided her inside, locked the door behind us, and knelt down to her level. Sweetheart, I asked softly, are you hurt anywhere else? She shook her head but didn't speak. Her lower lip trembled, and her eyes were glossy, that kind of quiet cry kids do when they're trying to be strong. I placed my hand on her cheek and kissed her forehead. You're safe now, I whispered. She nodded, but the fear still hung in her eyes like shadows refusing to leave. I helped her sit on the couch and brought her a warm blanket. As she wrapped it around herself, Her small fingers flexed around the edges, grounding herself in something soft after such a harsh moment. Outside, the evening sun dipped lower over the houses, but the anger inside me only grew brighter. I wanted justice. Not revenge. Justice. But justice isn't always quick, and not everyone is ready for the storm it brings. My phone buzzed. It was my colleague, Officer Miller, one of the officers who frequently collaborated with me on neighborhood safety issues. Daniel, he said the moment I answered, "I heard something went down near the West Gate. Neighbors are talking." Word travels too fast in this community, I muttered. "It's true." Karen put her hands on Lily. There was a long pause on the line. Miller exhaled sharply. "She what?" She pinned her against the metal gate. "Jesus, is Lily okay?" "She will be," I said softly, "but I'm pressing charges." "I'll support you all the way," Miller replied. "But you need to know something. Karen has influence in the HOA board. She's got connections with 2 council members. If she starts panicking, she could start pulling strings." "I don't care," I replied. "No one, no title, no connection, gives anyone the right to hurt a kid." "You're right," Miller said. "Just be ready. She won't go down quietly." I hung up, knowing he was right. Karen wasn't the type to sit still. She was the type to scramble, manipulate, twist the narrative, and paint herself as the victim. And she started faster than I expected. An hour later, I heard muffled voices outside. Lily's head snapped up, she tensed. "It's okay," I said, walking to the window. There they were, 3 HOA board members, standing on Karen's porch while Karen cried dramatically into a tissue, gesturing theatrically toward our house like a Hollywood actress auditioning for a tragic mother role. Typical Karen. The moment she felt threatened, she switched from predator to helpless victim. One board member, a tall man in his 60s, rang my doorbell. I opened the door but didn't step out. "Mr. Reyes," he said stiffly, "we understand there was an incident. A criminal incident," I corrected. He nodded awkwardly. "Karen says she didn't realize the girl was your daughter. She insists she only acted for community safety." "Community safety," I repeated slowly. "By physically assaulting a 12-year-old? He cleared his throat. "She claims she barely touched her." Lily, sitting quietly on the couch, heard that. Her small shoulders tensed. I gestured. "Come inside." The board member hesitated. "I'd rather stay out here." I said, I repeated firmly, "Come inside." He followed, shutting the door behind him. "Take a look," I said, pointing toward Lily's shoulder. The red finger marks were still imprinted against her skin. The board member inhaled sharply. His entire expression changed. That's not what she described," he admitted quietly. "No, it's not," I said. He looked at Lily, and something softer flickered in his eyes. "Guilt, maybe. Sweetheart, did she really push you that hard?" Lily didn't speak. She only nodded gently. And that was enough. The man turned fully to me. "Mr. Reyes, I'm sorry. I didn't know." "She told you her version," I replied. "Now you've seen the truth." He swallowed hard. "I'll have to speak with the other board members and prepare for a formal complaint." "She assaulted a minor," I said. "This goes beyond a complaint. This is law enforcement now." He nodded slowly, looking troubled. "Karen will not take this well." "I don't care how she takes it," I said. "My daughter comes first." He left without arguing further. I watched him walk across the street, and for the first time, Karen looked genuinely panicked. Her eyes widened as she realized the board member hadn't returned with a smile or reassurance. He walked away in stunned silence. Her mask began to crack. That night after I put Lily to bed, I sat in the living room, replaying everything, every moment, every scream, every tremble in her voice. I didn't realize how tightly I was gripping the armrest until my knuckles went white. A soft voice came from behind me. "Dad?" I turned. Lily stood there in pajamas, holding her sketchbook. She looked nervous, almost guilty. "Sweetheart, you should be sleeping." I wanted to show you something." She came closer and opened her sketchbook. She had drawn the gate, the metal bars, the path, and a small version of herself pressed against it. But the detail that broke me was this. She had drawn Karen's hand, gripping her shoulder, too big, too sharp like claws, and she had drawn me standing in the background, a few steps away, my face frozen in shock. "It's what it felt like," she whispered. I felt my throat tighten, painfully. I picked her up and placed her on my lap. "Thank you for showing me," I whispered. "But you never need to hold this alone again. I'm here. I'll always be here." She leaned into me, resting her head against my chest. "I know," she whispered. "We sat like that for a long time. But peace never lasts long when Karen is involved." The next morning, things escalated in a way even I didn't expect. I walked outside to get the paper and found something taped to my front door. A letter. HOA letterhead. Official looking. Signed by Karen. My eyebrows narrowed. I opened it. It read, "Notice of community conduct violation. Your daughter was found engaging in disruptive and unauthorized behavior near a restricted gate. As a result, the HOA is issuing a formal warning to your household. Further violations may result in fines or legal action." My blood boiled. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't backing down. She was doubling down. And, to make things worse, at the bottom was written, "Incident recorded for HOA archive purposes." Recorded. She had a recording? No. Karen recording an incident never meant innocence. It meant manipulation, editing, cutting, fabricating. She was trying to rewrite the narrative before the truth caught up. As I crumpled the paper in my fist, one thing became certain. This wasn't just a personal fight anymore. Karen was preparing for war, and she had no idea she picked the wrong father for that. The HOA letter was still crushed in my fist when I heard the soft creak of my front door. Lily stood there in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Dad, why are you outside?" she asked quietly. I forced my anger down and managed a small smile. "Just getting the mail, sweetheart. Go inside, I'll be right there." She nodded and shuffled back in, unaware of the war that had just begun. I unfolded the letter again, reading every twisted line Karen had manufactured. It didn't just distort the truth, it inverted it. According to her, Lily was the aggressor. Lily was disruptive. Lily violated a restricted area. There was no restricted area, no rule, no protocol. Karen had created an entire fictional offense to protect herself. Classic HOA Karen behavior. Rewrite reality until she becomes the victim. But this time, she didn't realize who she was doing it to. I took a deep breath and stepped back inside, my mind already formulating the next steps. I had dealt with hardened criminals, political manipulators, corrupt officials, but none of them were as brazenly delusional as a suburban HOA tyrant desperately trying to save herself. Later that morning, I made Lily breakfast, pancakes with chocolate chips. Her favorite. She smiled, but it was small, fragile. A smile held together with tape. "Dad," she whispered while poking her pancake with her fork, "is that lady going to be mad at me?" My heart sank. "No, sweetheart," I said firmly. "She's the one who did something wrong. Not you." "But she said I broke a rule." "There was no rule," I said softly. "She made it up because she thought she could scare you." Lily looked down, still nervous. It told me everything. That her innocence had been shaken, her confidence rattled, her sense of safety cracked. And that pushed me further toward the line between calm and furious. Around 10 a.m., I received a call from Officer Miller again. "You're not going to like this," he said. "What now?" I asked, already bracing myself. Karen filed a countercomplaint with the HOA and called in a community officer. "She what?" "She said your daughter behaved aggressively and that she had no choice but to restrain her." The rage hit me instantly. She pinned a child to a metal gate. That's not restraint. That's assault. "I know," Miller said, "but she's trying to get ahead of the investigation. She's pushing for a narrative where she acted in self-defense. Self-defense against a 12-year-old. I scoffed. "It sounds ridiculous, but you know how these people operate. They twist the story until someone believes it long enough to cause damage." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "I want every statement, every file, and every recording she claims to have. You'll get it. But Daniel, be careful. She's panicking. People do stupid things when they feel cornered. I hung up, my teeth clenched. Karen wasn't just trying to avoid consequences anymore. She was trying to reverse them, which meant one thing. She wasn't done attacking my family. Around noon, I heard a knock at my door. Not loud, not hostile, controlled, like someone who had rehearsed it. I opened the door to find a woman in her late 40s, another HOA board member holding a clipboard. Her eyes were nervous, her posture stiff. "Mr. Reyes," she began, "I'm here to discuss the events from yesterday. I already gave a statement to the board member who visited last night." "Yes, but Karen has requested a follow-up." "Of course she has," I muttered. "She claims you threatened her life," the woman continued cautiously. I stared at her. "What?" "She says you pulled your badge in a hostile manner and intimidated her." I pulled my badge, I corrected, to identify myself as law enforcement because she was assaulting my daughter. The woman shifted uncomfortably. "Karen feels unsafe and says your position could influence the outcome unfairly. So now she's accusing me of corruption?" I said, laughing bitterly. She phrased it as undue pressure. I exhaled slowly. "Look at my daughter's shoulder. Then decide if you still want to repeat her lies." The woman hesitated. "May I speak to her?" "She's a traumatized minor," I replied. "You're not speaking to her without a child officer or therapist present." She nodded. "I understand. I didn't think Karen's version was accurate, but I still had to come." "What else did she claim?" I asked. The woman hesitated again. She said, "You're planning to ruin her family and her reputation." I paused. Then I leaned slightly forward. "I'm planning," I said calmly, "to let the truth ruin her reputation. She can handle the rest herself." The HOA woman nodded, turned, and walked away, but her last glance told me everything. Even her own board didn't fully believe Karen anymore. Something inside that system was shifting. But Karen wouldn't accept the shift. She would fight it, and she would do it in the most dramatic, self-destructive way possible. Not even an hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Miller. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello." I answered. A frantic voice erupted from the other end. "Is this the assistant commissioner?" "This is David, Karen's husband." I stiffened. "Yes, what is it?" "I need your help," he whispered urgently. "Karen just left the house. She's not stable right now. She's grabbing files, printing things, talking about calling the news and filing charges against your daughter. She's saying she'll ruin you before you ruin her." I closed my eyes. Of course she was spiraling. "She told me she had everything under control," he continued, "but she's unraveling. I think she's going to make things worse for everyone, especially your little girl." I didn't respond, not out of apathy, but because I was processing the implications. A person like Karen, cornered, terrified, losing control, was dangerous. Not physically, but socially, politically, verbally, digitally. Where is she now? I asked. "I don't know," he said. She stormed off with her laptop and some HOA binders. She said she was going to take back control before the neighborhood turned against her. I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. Karen wasn't just going to lie. She was going to escalate, possibly smear us online, possibly falsify evidence, possibly manipulate the HOA records. This wasn't just emotional meltdown. This was a calculated last stand from a woman who couldn't accept accountability. She mentioned going toward the HOA office. Her husband added, "Of course she did. The HOA office, where she kept files, where she stored her laptop, where she had access to community cameras, where she could doctor footage." I stood up, immediately grabbing my keys. "Stay home," I told him. "I'll handle it." "Please," he whispered, "don't punish my family for her actions." "I'm not punishing anyone," I said, "but I will protect mine." I hung up, because this wasn't just a dispute anymore. Karen was about to cross a line she could never come back from, and I was going to be there when she did. The drive to the HOA office felt longer than it actually was. Every second my car rolled forward, I imagined Karen inside that small beige building, frantically typing, printing, editing, twisting reality like clay in her hands. And with her position as HOA president, she had access to tools that could cause real damage if used irresponsibly. I wasn't afraid for myself. I wasn't even afraid for my career. I was afraid for the truth, that Karen would bury it under layers of fabricated evidence before I could expose her. When I pulled into the tiny parking lot, her car was already parked crooked across 2 spaces. A bad sign. Karen was always neurotically precise. Messy parking meant she was unraveling further. I stepped out, closed the car door behind me, and approached the building. The blinds were closed, odd for a weekday morning. Usually the sunlight filtered in through open windows, while Linda, the elderly receptionist, offered cookies to anyone who walked in. Today, silence swallowed the building whole. I pushed the door open. Inside, the lights were off except for the glow coming from the office in the back. Papers were scattered across the front desk, chairs slightly moved, drawers half open, as if Karen had rummaged through everything in a hurry. My footsteps echoed across the tile floor. Then I heard it, the frantic tapping of keys, heavy breaths, the sound of a chair scraping. Karen was inside. I approached the back office, and when I reached the doorway, I finally saw her. She sat hunched over the HOA president's desk, hair messy, eyes swollen from crying, surrounded by a fortress of binders and printed pages. Her laptop screen glowed with frantic edits on a document titled, Neighborhood Incident Official Report. Official? My jaw tightened. Karen looked up sharply when she heard me. Her eyes were wild, a mix of fear, adrenaline, and hatred. You, she whispered, her voice cracking. Why are you here? Because you're making things worse, I said calmly. Step away from the laptop. No, she screamed, clutching her arms around herself. You're trying to destroy me. I'm trying to protect my daughter, I said. And the truth. Karen pointed at the screen, shaking. I have the truth. I wrote everything exactly how it happened. I leaned forward and read the first line of her report. The child became aggressive and attempted to forcefully enter HOA property. My fists clenched. You're lying, I said. Karen slammed her palm on the desk. I am documenting the incident in the way I experienced it. Assaulting a child is not an experience, I replied coldly. It's a crime. You don't understand, she whispered, her voice trembling. If people think I attacked a child, they'll remove me from the HOA board. My husband will lose respect for me. My son will think I'm a monster. You did attack a child, I reminded her. Karen shook her head violently. I didn't hurt her. I just restrained her. She was going somewhere unsafe. Unsafe? It's a gate, I said, and it wasn't restricted. It was restricted, she insisted. No, I said firmly. You restricted it. You, not the HOA rules. You created a rule in your mind and punished a child based on your imagination. Her eyes flickered with something, shame, but it didn't last. People already hate me in this neighborhood, she cried. They think I'm controlling, but I'm just trying to keep things in order. I'm the only one who cares about the rules. Rules don't matter when they hurt innocent people, I replied. Karen stood up, suddenly, grabbing a stack of printed papers and holding them to her chest. You can't take these. This is my report. The HOA believes me. They trust me. They know I keep this neighborhood safe. You're not keeping it safe, I said quietly. You're terrorizing it. Her eyes filled with tears. You ruined everything, she whispered. If you had just accepted the warning I gave your daughter, none of this would have happened. You pinned her to a gate, I said. There is no warning that includes bruising a 12-year-old. You should have seen the way she looked at me. Karen shouted, like I was nothing, like I wasn't in charge. I stared at her, breath still, pulse frozen. There it was, the truth, the core of her madness. Karen didn't attack Lily because of rules. Karen attacked her because she felt challenged by a child. You're spiraling, I said gently, and you're digging yourself deeper. Walk away from the desk. Let's talk. I can't walk away, she yelled, because you're going to destroy me. I'm not trying to destroy, anyone, I said. I just want accountability. Transparency. The real story. No, she sobbed. You want revenge. You want to humiliate me in front of the entire community. You humiliated yourself, I said quietly. I'm just here because you hurt my daughter. Karen's knees buckled and she sank into the chair. I didn't mean to, she whispered. I swear, I didn't mean to. Maybe not, I said, but intention does not erase impact. She covered her face with her hands and cried, genuinely cried, for the first time since this began. For a moment, I almost saw the human inside her. Almost. Then the printer beeped. Karen looked at it like a lifeline. She rushed to it and grabbed the freshly printed paper. This is going in the official HOA file, she declared shakily. And once it's in the file, your daughter will be the one disciplined, not me. She spoke the words like a threat, like she had found her weapon. And with that single moment, every fragile drop of humanity I thought I saw in her shattered. You're filing a falsified report, I said. That's a crime. It's my HOA, she screamed. My board, my rules, and I won't let you take that away from me. I exhaled slowly. Then you leave me no choice. She froze, clutching her papers. What choice? She whispered, scared now. I'm placing you under preliminary community detainment until law enforcement arrives. What? She gasped. I'm calling officers to secure this office. If you tamper with another document, delete footage, or manipulate reports, that's obstruction of justice. Karen's eyes widened in panic. No, please, I can fix this. I can fix everything. It's too late for that. No, she cried. You can't do this. I already did, I said, pulling out my phone. Karen collapsed backward into the chair, shaking uncontrollably, her entire world crumbling around her. Because for the first time, she realized the truth. She wasn't in control anymore, and she never had been. Karen sat frozen in the HOA president's chair, trembling as if the entire room were collapsing around her. The papers she clutched, her falsified official report, slipped from her fingers and scattered across the floor like broken pieces of her last defense. Her breath came in short, sharp bursts. For a woman who spent her life controlling everyone else, losing control felt like drowning. I stepped back, giving her space while dialing the emergency non-urgent line, protocol for civilian detainment without physical threat. My voice was calm, steady, professional. I reported her actions, falsifying documents, attempting to corrupt community records, and, most importantly, her assault on a minor. When I ended the call, Karen stared at me with wide, glassy eyes. Are they really coming? She whispered. Yes, I replied. For me? Yes. She shook violently, like the truth was finally catching up to her in waves. But I didn't mean to hurt her, she pleaded. I just wanted people to follow the rules. That's all I've ever wanted. No, I said softly. You wanted control. And when a child didn't give it to you, you snapped. Karen opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Because even she knew it was true. The silence in the office felt heavy, pressing down on both of us. Papers lay everywhere, her laptop screen still open on the fabricated report she'd been crafting, full of twisted narratives and altered timestamps meant to bury the truth. She wiped her eyes. My husband, my son, what will they think? That you crossed the line, I said honestly, that you need help, and that consequences don't disappear just because someone is scared. Her shoulders slumped. I was never supposed to be HOA president, she whispered. I was just filling in. I didn't know how to say no. And then the power felt good. People listened. People jumped when I spoke. I felt important for once. And that feeling became an addiction, I said. She didn't deny it. I'm not a bad person, she whispered. Am I? I paused. Everyone thinks they're the hero in their own story. Even the villain never wakes up thinking they're the villain. No, I said carefully. You're not evil, but your fear, your pride, your insecurity, they made you dangerous. Karen's eyes welled again. I didn't mean to hurt her, she repeated, almost begging the universe for forgiveness. That doesn't erase what happened, I said. She covered her face, sobbing in a way that was less dramatic and more defeated. And for the first time, the monster everyone feared looked like a broken human being who had been building a tower of lies for years and now watched it collapse. Outside, I heard the rumble of an engine and the crunch of tires on gravel. Karen's head snapped up, panic igniting all over again. "They're here," she choked. I glanced through the blinds. A patrol car. 2 officers stepping out. "Yes," I said quietly. Karen stood abruptly, backing into the corner. No, I can't do this. I can't be arrested." "You won't be arrested today," I said gently. "They're just here to secure the office and escort you out. The actual legal process starts after investigation. But they'll put me on record." Her voice cracked. "I'll be a criminal." "Actions have consequences," I replied. She looked like a balloon that had deflated so quickly it couldn't understand what happened. The officers approached. I stood by the door as they entered the office. One of them nodded respectfully. "Assistant Commissioner." "At ease," I said. "She's not violent, just unstable and tampering with evidence." Karen collapsed into the chair again, covering her face as the officers read her temporary detainment notice. They didn't handcuff her, didn't touch her, didn't raise their voices. But the humiliation was enough to shatter whatever remained of her inflated sense of power. As they escorted her out, Karen turned to me, tears streaking her cheeks. "Please, tell them I'm not a monster," she whispered. I met her eyes. "You're not," I said, "but you need help. And this is the only way you'll ever get it." Her lips quivered. "I'm sorry about Lily." This time, I believed she meant it. They guided her to the patrol car. Not in cuffs, not in force, but in quiet shame. Once she was inside, the officers secured the building and left with her. I stood alone in the office, a battlefield of papers, ruined lies, broken pride, and truth scattered across the floor. It was over. At least it should have been. But the real ending didn't happen in the HOA office. It happened at home. When I returned, Lily was curled up on the couch hugging her sketchbook. She looked up as I entered. "Dad." I knelt in front of her. "Hey, sweetheart." "Did she do something bad again?" she asked quietly. I brushed her hair, gently. "No, she won't hurt you anymore." "Is she going to jail?" "Not today," I said, "but she's going to be held accountable." Lily nodded slowly. "Did I do something wrong?" My heart broke. I pulled her into my arms. "No, you did nothing wrong. You were brave. You told the truth. And you stood your ground." She squeezed me tightly. "I was scared," she whispered. "I know," I said, "but you're safe now." She looked up at me with those soft, innocent eyes that had been so terrified the day before. "Dad, are you mad at her?" I thought for a moment. I admitted, but not anymore. "Why?" she asked. "Because today she faced the truth," I said, "and sometimes that's the best justice." Lily processed that quietly. Then she opened her sketchbook and tore out the page of Karen pinning her to the gate. "I don't want to remember this anymore," she whispered. I nodded. She handed me the page. I walked to the fireplace, struck a match, and watched the drawing curl into ash. Lily stood beside me, watching it disappear. As the last ember faded, she leaned into my side and whispered, "Thank you for protecting me." I wrapped my arm around her and kissed her head. "I always will," I said, because at the end of the day, titles, positions, authority, none of it mattered. I wasn't an assistant commissioner in that moment. I was just a father. And that was enough. If you made it this far, thank you. Stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're reminders that every child deserves safety, every parent deserves peace, and no title or authority should ever be used to hurt someone innocent. Now, I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell me, what city are you watching from? I love seeing this community grow across the USA and the world. And if you've ever dealt with someone like Karen, tell me your experience. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. Before you scroll away, hit like if this story touched your heart. Subscribe to join our family of viewers who love emotional, powerful stories that reveal truth, justice, and real human courage. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. Your support means everything. It helps me keep creating the stories you love, the stories that matter, and the stories that remind us. Right always wins when someone is brave enough to stand up for it. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next story.